Thank you for tuning into Literary Blend, a publishing podcast. I'm your host, Demi Michelle Schwartz. There's no perfect recipe for chasing a dream in the publishing industry, but I hope the conversations on this show give you the ingredients you need to bake yours into reality. So let's flip the page and get into this chapter of Literary Blend. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Literary Blend. Today's chapter is called The Power of Perseverance. And joining me on the show for a fabulous chat on this topic is an author I'm so honored to sit down with right now. Please welcome Dana Hawkins. Hey, Dana.
Hi, Demi. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I am really excited for this conversation.
Me too, me too. So let's get started. So before we dive into that chat about perseverance, I would love for you to share a little about yourself and your journey as an author so far.
Sure. So, my name is Dana Hawkins. I am the author of three books that are coming out this year. Well, actually, two books by the time this recording is released will have been released, and then a third that is coming out a little bit later. I write contemporary romance novels, and I have two sapphic books and one male female book coming out, and I am from Minnesota, but I lived for 20 years in Seattle and raised my family. And now I am back in Minnesota, which is very interesting, being with the snow and the cold and everything. But it's been a wonderful change, I guess. It's been really nice to be back with family. This is where I'm from. And so for my writing journey, I started writing actually over the pandemic. I've always had stories in my head since I was a child, but I really dove into writing during that time and it's just evolved from there. And so, yeah, I love it. I found my passion.
Fantastic, and congratulations on the book deals. You are totally slaying it, and I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So let's dive into our chat on the power of perseverance. So to kick us off, as an author, how would you define perseverance?
Oh gosh, I define it as someone who has a combination of grit and resilience and the power to just keep going. We will hear this all the time as authors in this business, really in any creative business. I'm sure you understand this from the music business as well, that there is constant rejection, constant. And so it is having that sort of level of drive that you can get past the hurt of rejection and you can move past some of the unkind things that will be said to you. You will move past the imposter syndrome as much as you possibly can, and you will push forward and not let anything stop you from reaching that dream or your goal, whatever that may be.
Perfect, absolutely. And I completely understand from the music side as well. And I think it really helped me to start my music career before getting into publishing because I released my debut single in 2019 and I didn't really see any kind of success, period. No interviews, no nothing really until 2021. And so it took years. And so from all the rejection and all the ghosting, when I transitioned into doing publishing too and started querying and did all of that, I understood from the music side how I was going to face rejection and not everybody would like my book, just like not everybody likes my music. And so it was easier, but that to say, it still was really difficult. I cried over rejections at the beginning. I had those thoughts of, am I wasting my time? And will I ever achieve my dreams as an author? And so I definitely think perseverance has a lot to do with the determination and the never giving up. And honestly, for me, what helped me to stay motivated was constantly reminding myself the next query I send could be the one. The next one could be the one. And I am that kind of person who, like, I would not have been able to live with myself if I quit and I would have been wondering the rest of my life if I would have sent one more, would that have been the one? So that's my whole perspective.
I think that is such a great point. I think we hear it all the time that it just takes one yes, right? But I I had that fear as well. Like if if I stop now, like, what will I think later? And I'm in my 40s, and I just started writing when I was in my 40s. And there was sort of this thought of my age where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm just starting this. I have people I'm competing against that are 20 years old and they have their whole lifetime. And I thought, you know what? I'm like, if I don't do it now, I'm going to turn 50 someday and then be like, well, now I'm 50, or I'll turn 60 or 70, whatever that case is. And so I think that you just had like a really good point about, just keep going. Don't let anything stop you. The age, even, and there are people who think they're too young, who knows? But yeah, that's a really good point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy you brought up the age because I am about to turn 27. So I am in my 20s. But I definitely think that publishing is one of those industries where your age truly doesn't matter. I think people get in their heads like, "Oh, I'm not the right age and I don't look like an author," and all the things, but we see stories all the time like you're in your 40s and you're getting book deals. I've seen even older authors get their first book deals in their 50s, and it's just so inspiring and so fresh to, like, see all these authors from all different ages getting success, whether getting published or signing with agents, because I think what's really great too is you get the wide range of perspectives. Something I'm writing about in my 20s is different than what you're writing about in your 40s, and you're able to bring those different perspectives and also reach readers that span all the ages as well. Like I write young adult, but adults read young adult, teens read young adult, and I think, with contemporary romance, with what you're writing too, like I love contemporary romance, and there's a whole age range of readers. And so when we look at publishing and the readers and how the readers span all ages, I think we need to also keep in mind that there's space for everyone in publishing, no matter how old you are.
Definitely. Could not agree more.
Perfect. Well, another point I wanted to bring up is this idea of failure. So, when you're perseverant, you push through the fear of failure and you embrace opportunities and obstacles that could be seen as failures as learning opportunities and ways to continue to grow and keep chasing those dreams and being resilient despite the possibility of failure. And for me personally, like failure was not an option for me. And I think that's one of the things when you have this power of perseverance, no matter how many no's you hear, and no matter how many times you can think I might fail, you have that flame in you that continues to give you the energy and the motivation you need to keep going.
I definitely agree. I will say with my own personal querying journey, I really tackled it with that mindset. I remember saying to my spouse, I'm like, I'm just literally going to keep going until someone says yes. I don't care what I have to do. I will just query until I drop dead. I do not care. And so with I wrote my very first book, and of course I thought this is it. This is the masterpiece. This is Netflix is going to be knocking at my door. It was the first thing I ever wrote. I had not read a craft book. I had not done proper research, but I thought it was brilliant. And I started querying, and I, went through the first 25, and then I'm like, well, I've got my top 50, and then I've got my top 100. And then I queried, I want to say like 185 agents. It was basically every single agent that was open in this period of time. And I got rejections from every single one. I did end up getting quite a few full manuscript request, which was pretty cool because looking back now, I didn't have the right story, but it meant that I had the right concept. And so I thought, okay, I've queried everyone alive. I need to write another book. And so I wrote another book and I did the same thing. And I probably queried 150 agents and I got 150 rejections and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to write another book. And so then I did. And that is when the book deal started coming in. It was, I just was not going to stop no matter what until I had a traditionally published book. And I know that there's a lot of feelings and thoughts about self-publishing and indie and traditional and all the kind of things. And this is not to say that one is better than the other. It is just for me, for myself. I wanted that validation of a traditional publisher to say, you know what, yep, we'll take you on. And so that was really important. But yeah, I was like, I will just keep writing book after book after book until one of them lands.
Yeah, no, absolutely perfect. And I'm happy you mentioned the different paths. No matter what path someone is pursuing, they're all valid. And as long as you have that book in your hands that you dreamed of holding, then you found success, whatever that looks like for you. So I also really love how you brought up how you kept writing books and kept going because me too. My young adult mystery, which was my thesis in my master's program, I thought it was the greatest thing. And I still love this story. But after I wrote 2 more books, and my 3rd one is the one that got me my agent, when I went back to read my first one, the young adult mystery, I was like, I couldn't even, like, get through it. It was just, like, not good, like, after I learned so much about better craft and all the things, and I was like, "You know what? Like, if I was an agent, I would have rejected this too."
Yeah.
And so it was a massive learning experience, and that was the thing. Every single time I got a rejection, I was like, "Alright, sending another one," and then every single time I moved on to a new book, I sat and reflected and thought, "Okay, what did I learn, whether from the business side with, like, crafting a query letter and synopsis and researching agents, and what did I learn about the craft from, like, conferences and things that I've attended? What can I apply to this next book?" And so I always saw it as a learning opportunity and a way to better myself as an author, and I think that's the thing. When you look at perseverance, it's not only trying to get your dream and, find that publishing success with an agent or a indie publisher, but, just trying to better yourself as an author, persevere, push through that, and get through the roadblocks that you're facing on the creative side too, because you will just be a better author in the end.
I think that is such an excellent point. I know I had a couple beta readers for some of my earlier works, and I think one of the things as authors that we have to let go of is our ego a little bit, and also allowing rejection or feedback to oh, what is the right word? It's like I'm a writer and I never have the right words in my head. Like letting that letting feedback be a roadblock, letting it scare you. And I think for me, once I accepted that feedback is a true gift, and I really believe that, and I'm not talking about nasty reviews on like Goodreads, that is not, that is not helpful. But when you have beta readers or alpha readers or critique partners giving you feedback, even in the moment, if it like stings a little bit, it is such a gift that somebody cares enough about your work to point out areas of improvement. And I think once you can change your mentality a little bit in that regard, it's so helpful. It's just the whole journey. It makes it much easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that leans into the whole point of leaning on others too, like whether just author friends or turning to beta readers, critique partners, or freelance editors to give you feedback on your work. The community aspect will truly help to fuel your power of perseverance because I could not have even gotten a month into this if I didn't have my friends and I didn't have the support. And so I think building a supportive network around you to help keep you on your feet and to give you light in the darkness really helped me. And I know for my author friends too, like just talking to them all the time, like phone calls, Twitter messages, texting, like hearing that they're going through the things I'm going through or I went through, and just reassuring them that they're not alone and that we're all rowing the boat together and we're trying to do the thing. And I think it's really great when you have that support system because that brings enjoyment along the way.
Oh my gosh. I will say the writing community in general, I have found is to be one of the most organic, supportive communities that I've ever been part of. So I know for myself, I have like a core group of 5 women that I really lean on. And they lean on me and we swap feedback and we're really each other's cheerleaders and partners and we cry on each other's shoulders. And it's just a really beautiful community. But then the sort of macro community, the broader, even on Twitter, which I have found so many people being so supportive and lifting each other up and sharing posts and sharing pictures when they've purchased or pre-ordered or all those things. So community is everything. I cannot imagine a world where I have gotten any book deals without my writing community. I really don't.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that The life of an author is very lonely. We're shut up in our rooms or offices or whatever by ourselves 90% of the time, writing our books and revising our books. And so when you're in that space of being alone, you can start to feel the doubts. You can start to have these thoughts of just giving up because it gets difficult. And so that's why it's really important to have the writing community and your friends, because that means that you're not alone, even though like you might feel like you are. There's so many people doing this too. And so I think it's very important to find your people and just be part of the wider community, like you said, because it's great. Like there is drama from time to time, but for the most part, it's so great to go on Twitter, see all the support, make friends, and cheer each other on. It's a beautiful community. So, another point I wanted to chat about is this idea of self belief. For me, a big part of perseverance is never losing belief in myself, even when I was getting rejections and I felt like others didn't believe in me. Because I think that once you find a publisher who believes in you, or once you find an agent who believes in you, then you have that partnership, you have that champion. But until you get there, there isn't a single person in the world who believes in your book more than you do. And even when you sign with someone, it's still you. You believe in that book more than anybody else. And so, get into a place of self belief and feeling confident in your work and proud of it is a huge part of perseverance.
I could not agree more. I keep disagreeing with everything that you say. I think it's a really hard place to get to sometimes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wrote a blog a while ago about writers go through emotional phases. Everything from delusional confidence, where you're like, this is literally the greatest thing ever written, to just massive bouts of imposter syndrome. And I go through every phase, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly. I still really struggle with self-doubt, even with the book deals. I'm constantly surrounded by such incredible talent with my critique partners and other debut authors, and just books that I pick up that I measure myself against. And I sometimes read the reviews and I internalize the negative reviews so hard, but I can't fully accept the great reviews. It's just like this balance. But I also try to push through it. At the same time, there's this other side of my personality that kind of tries to lift myself up and say, like, you got this. Look at how far you've come. You didn't even pick up a pen until 2020, your first time in your life. You don't have any education background in writing. I have no idea where to place a comma properly, or what a prepositional noun is, or any of those fancy things. I just don't. And so I think so I do try to talk myself up and, like, it's okay. It's okay. That's why we have editors. That's why we have this. You can tell a story. And yeah, so yeah, I agree. You got to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I completely agree with going through phases. There will be days where I think my book is the best thing, and then I get an edit letter and I'm like, this sucks, I want to quit. Like everybody goes through that. But I think tying into this, celebrating any kind of small win is so important. You mentioned earlier when you were getting that sea of rejections, you got a few full requests, and that's fantastic. When I was querying with my first two, I got very few requests, but the ones that I did get, it gave me a flame of hope like, okay, someone is interested. I'm getting closer. And even just when you're getting feedback on your manuscript, if you get a very nice comment from a critique partner, that is a small win. If you're published and you get a very nice review from a reader, that is a win. I think sometimes as authors, like you said, you can focus on the self doubt and the negativity and the bad reviews and all of that. But I think the more you focus on these little moments along the way that give you hope and that show you that you are making progress and you are doing great work, that really helps with perseverance too, because it's not all bad all the time. And sometimes because we have our hearts and our mindset on like whatever our big goal is, we can overlook these smaller steps along the way. And so I think it's really great to try to remember to celebrate those small wins.
Absolutely. This actually reminds me of when my book was launched, my debut novel, Not in the Plan. And the very first Instagram reel that I saw that wasn't a friend that did it for me, um, lifted me up so much. And to other people, that might not be a big deal if someone made a post about your book or whatever. But to me, it's like those wins are like drops in my bucket. They fill me so much. And so I think really latching on and celebrating to any of those small wins along the way is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Dana, wow. We have covered so much, and it has been a total delight so far. But just to wrap up our chat on perseverance, before we dive into the plot twist, I wanted to ask you if you had any advice for authors who are really struggling to be perseverant.
Oh gosh. I think my greatest advice, I think, is really to embrace some craft books and some podcasts. So there are so many out there, and I found several books, and I really wish I would have had them before I ever started writing because I think my writing journey would have been a lot different. I sort of was playing catch up. And so, don't be afraid to kind of stop and just do some research and read some good books. And then the other thing is if you are writing and you're stuck and you're all in your head and this sucks and I can't get past this plot line, just walk away, go start something else. I have done that before. I was like 60,000 words into a book and I was just literally stuck, and I put it away and I started a new book, and I ended up loving that book so much more, and I completed that book, and then I came back to that original book, probably 5 months later, and I could look at it with a totally different perspective. But while I was writing it, I was like, "This is the only thing I can work on. I can't walk away. I can't do this." And you know what? It's okay. If it's not doing it for you, just walk away, change it up. You try something else.
I love that so much, and that is all about what we can control as authors. There's so much out of our control, especially when you're pitching manuscripts and when you're published. You can't control how readers are going to react. But what we can control is our writing. If we're writing something and it's not clicking, you have the power to say, okay, I'm going to step away from this. I'm going to start another project just so I keep working and I keep pushing through all of the doubts and all of the everything. Like, go keep writing, switch projects, and find inside of you what brings you enjoyment. If you're working on something and you're not happy, then you completely have the power to change and do something else. If you're writing in one genre and you're like, I want to do something else, switch genres. If you're working in one age category and you're like, you know what, I want to try to write a different age category, do it. Like, you have that control, and that's what I loved so much, and that's what genuinely kept me a little sane when I was querying. I had the ability to try different things. My first book is a young adult mystery, my second one is a young adult speculative thriller, and my third one is a young adult contemporary fantasy. I wrote 3 different genres just to keep exploring as an author and trying new things, and finding enjoyment in the process really helped me to stay perseverant because I kept it fun for myself. So any way that you can bring enjoyment into this, definitely do that.
Agreed.
Fabulous. Well, Dana, it was a joy having you on the show for a fantastic chat. And this brings us to the plot twist where I get to ask you a question that you couldn't have seen coming. Are you
Oh
ready?
gosh. No.
So I know that your fabulous book, Not in the Plan, features a coffee shop, right?
Yes, it
So,
does.
so your question is, if you could invent a coffee recipe that is perfect to represent contemporary romance, what would the recipe be?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Okay. So it's got to be warm, obviously. So I don't want an iced coffee. I want a warm coffee. I think it's got to have some sugar in it because that would represent the love and the joy. So we'll say some vanilla because that is the first thing that's coming to my mind. But then because it's romance, I feel like it has to have some reddish theme. And so because of that, it's bringing me to a coffee I had recently that had edible rose on it, which was very interesting. They Yeah,
Oh.
and it had, cardamom in there, and everything in there was, like, rosy and warm and sweet and milky and coffee-y, and so I don't know if those flavors would actually go well together, but that is what I'm gonna go with, a rose, vanilla, warm, milky concoction.
What would you call it?
Ooh, oh gosh. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Vanilla Rose Love. That's a terrible name.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, if you ever make this, please do let us know.
I will.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Can you please share with everybody where they can connect with you online and check out your book?
Yes, thank you so much. So, Not in the Plan and In Walked Trouble. You can find those on Amazon, of course. You can please find me on my website at danahawkins.com. That's DANAHAWKINS.com. And then I'm also on Instagram at d.hawkinsauthor. And I should have chosen a different handle when I started it, but I didn't know what I was doing. But that's what it is.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Demi. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And listeners, that is a wrap on this chapter of Literary Blend with Jana on the power of perseverance. If you enjoyed our conversation, please consider leaving Literary Blend a review and giving it 5 stars to help others just like you discover it. Also, if you have friends in the publishing industry you think would enjoy the show, please pass it along to them. Thank you for listening, and until we flip to the next chapter, happy reading and writing.